Lights, 4 lights and 5 red lights here at Bahrain. And it is lights out, and away we go for season 9. The second Ferrari has gotten a pretty good launch off the line. He's going to look to already rival Enes Mohammed as they make their way down into turn 1. The battery off for Atis. Will he send it up the inside of his teammate? They go into the first corner. Enes Mohammed on the inside line, and he is just squeezed off a little bit, but continues to hold on to the lead. Julian Peters has spun off at the first corner after potentially tangling with John Manning. He drops back down to the back of the field along with his teammate Max Hamalan, who has dropped down to P16 and is position swapping all up and down the order, side by side everywhere. It's Enes Mohammed who leads from Fira. There's a car! There's a car on top of another driver there. Huge moment for Lauda, who gets up on drop of another driver. I've never seen that in my history of commentating in Prime Motorsport. Lauda with a huge moment there, riding on top of another car coming out of turn 4. Unbelievable stuff.
What the That scared me so much. What the is happening?
And there goes Kiziel on the AI of John Manning, getting through pretty easily. And it's going to be the same for the rest of the cars unless the Englishman can connect to the game nice and quickly here. Meanwhile, it's almost free wide actually. Coming into turn 1, Sandro up the inside of Hog Rider, and there's a little bit of contact there, and it's almost free wide now as well. Heading into turn 2, and Sebastian Krog has got the better of it. Here goes Sandro still up the inside. Hog Rider's got a great view of this. He's trying to go round the outside of the Haas. They make their way down to turn 4. Sebastian Krog has got 2 cars in 1. Hog Rider makes contact, and Sandro is still trying to get a position off of the Hog Rider. 4P6, they make more wheel-to-wheel contact. Hog Rider is shuffled out, and he's now going to get overtaken by Pamo Peltomer around the outside of the Visa Cash App Racing balls. And a little bit of drama there and a bit of scrapping for P5 has resulted in Hog Rider dropping down to P8 and the Mercedes climbing the order here. For the lead of the race, Fira Atis has swapped with Enes Mohammed, and that looks like a pretty clean and simple swap from those two.
Which
Kiziel actually comes into the pits instead off of these mediums there. Lap 8 of 29. He's only done 7 laps on this medium tyre, but he's already deciding to call it quits and try and get an undercut advantage. Max Hamalan actually go wheel to wheel now with Hog Rider on the exit of 4. Hog Rider on the outside line. Max Hamalan has the inside. Can Hog Rider hold it? He almost holds it up the inside of Max Hamalan. Max Hamalan just shows him the door and cuts his nose off. And smart of Hog Rider to back out of that one. And then struggling for traction, they're struggling for power. Meanwhile, Julian Peters has overtaken Pamo Peltomer, who resends it down the inside the Red Bull, and they make contact. And both of them almost swap ends on each other. Pamo Peltomer and Julian Peters lucky to get away with that one, but that is a nudge from the Mercedes driver. Julian Peters clearly unhappy about that, wobbling his wheel down the straight and expressing his frustration. Max Hamalan is finally the next car who will come into the pits, and he's going to look to try and undercut as his teammate goes wheel to wheel with Pamo Peltomer once again, and Pamo Peltomer will try and hang it round the outside. The outside turns to the inside, and Julian Peters gets tapped around by the Mercedes, and he heads towards the wall through the gravel. He just about manages to avoid the wall, but Julian Peters once again makes contact with Pamo Peltomer, and Pamo Peltomer has yet another incident out there, once again causing contact with the Red Bull driver. So while Kiziel went onto the mediums, Max Hamalan has picked the hards, and now Enes Mohammed will be the next car of these lot to box. Expect to see drivers potentially all coming into the pits now, triggering a bit of a chain reaction. Enes Mohammed has gone to the hard tyres as well, and so it'll be interesting to see how this all shapes up. So a huge undercut from Kiziel and from maybe even Hog Rider and Alex Day, unless he can get the power down quickly here. He's going to exit out towards turn 1. He manages to split Hog Rider and Alex Day. Alex Day actually going very wide off the track there as they came out side by side, and Sebastian Krog will hope that he isn't tapped around in a similar fashion to Julian Peters, but it is essential he stays ahead of the Aston Martin here, and that is what he does.
From the medium to fast speed corner. So.
Oh, and actually Hog Rider has just got a really nice run up the around the outside of Sebastian Krog, which turned into the inside, but now they make their way to turn 4, and he's just not got a battery or the momentum left to compete. And actually, he once again tries to send it around the outside of the Mercedes, but I think Hog Rider just has to accept that position is lost. Potentially Lauda actually playing DRS games here and might be trying to let the Mercedes go. This could cause some chaos, and it actually does, as Lauda gets hit by Hog Rider, who runs into the back of the Alpine, and all sorts of drama there as Alex Day went really wide offline, Lauda went offline, and Hog Rider cut through, but hopefully no damage. You can see he's missing his front right end plate, so a bit of wing damage for Hog Rider, and that is what DRS games get you if you don't play carefully enough. Oh no, both of those two cars actually. Kiziel has come into the pits. So the final stops are now happening. Lots of cars jumbling up and down the order. It's Kiziel who goes onto the hards. Hog Rider also boxes. So does Alex Day. Sandro finally comes into the pits off of his hards, doing 90 laps on them. That is a respectable distance on those hard tyres. And he's going to have a huge tyre offset to the rest of his guys. Actually, depends where he comes out, I suppose. He's only going to have tyres that are 1 lap nearer than half the grid. So it'd be interesting to see whether he won or lost anything by staying out that long. Then Elias Mohammed will not be winning his home Grand Prix here. He's made a mistake up there and he's got a track limit. He has a 3-second penalty. And Vera Attis is looking set to pick up this win pretty easily. And this may be one that we add to the list of wins where Elias Mohammed made a mistake and, you know, should have had an easy win. Jay swaps in Max Amalan, who was running with Julian Peters up in P5, and they're going wheel to wheel, and they're losing time actually to Sandro, who is just grinning behind his helmet and is going to look to capitalise on this racing from these drivers. But I didn't realise the actual sheer advantage that these mediums have over those hards. Look at that, the grip is so much different between these guys, and Sandro getting impatient, sends it up the inside of Max Amalan. Max Amalan was not expecting an overtake there, but fair enough, Sandro has pulled it off and made it work, and just about getting away with that one. Max Amalan just doesn't have the traction to go for a move there. Sandro actually lets him back through. I don't think that was necessary. I think that move was on. He got alongside into the corner, and that is wasting Sandro's time for sure as well. He's now going to burn his battery down here and see if he can get past into this corner, but Max Amalan has the same thought while he can, and he switches the battery on and breezes past Max Amalan, who was recharging out there, and he tries to signal to Max to potentially even work with him here, but Max Amalan complies with that request, and wow, Sandro could just go so late on the brakes and is now catching up to his teammate. But now this is where he burns the battery and gets past his teammate, and now Sandro is unleashed against Julian Peters. 4-lap-old mediums versus 11-lap-old hards. And that could have been consequential, but in the meantime, Sandro has gotten up the inside of Julian Peters, and he's making that move. He's got the DRS on the Red Bull, and he's played that one perfectly. He's stayed up the inside, he's deploying the battery, and now he will have the hole open in the rear wing. And there he goes. Julian Peters has played the DRS games with Sandro, and Sandro gives him the squeeze, and Julian just backs out of it, heading into turn 1, keeping the Red Bull on his outside. And a brilliant tyre strategy from the Haas. Now he just needs to pull away from the rest of his cars. There's yellows in sector 1 again. That's actually Finn and Pavo. Finn and Pavo have come together up there. They've had a moment, and that's put Finn into P8. Kizzo up to P9 and Pavo down to P10. Pavo already had track limits penalties with the rest of the field, you have to say. And nothing unexpected really, and Julian Peters has actually managed to pull side by side with Sandro once again. Sandro's not quite pulled away in the way he was expecting, but look at the way Julian Peters swerved on the exit of that corner, and that's going to give Jay a chance to try and get a slipstream off his teammate and try and get up the inside of the Red Bull as they fight for the middle point positions here. And Julian Peters isn't going to send it up the inside of the other Haas, but that's going to allow Jay to look to the outside. Now he's going to try and get a switch back on the Red Bull. He's actually rear-ended by the Red Bull of Max Amalan behind him. The pace is there, but he's always having these moments in his DRS games being played at the end of the straight once again, and the 3 cars almost going off the track. Julian Peters inherits P4. What is going on here at Bahrain? Sandro is now going to look to re-overtake the Red Bull, who squeezes him to the pit wall, and they're going to go 3 wide. The Haas now takes the normal racing line and is going to look to the outside of his teammate. What's Julian going to do coming down into turn 1? He makes more contact. They're getting really rough and really racy here as they make lots of contact there, all stemmed from some crashing at the last corner as DRS games were being played. And now Julian is going to go up the inside of Sandro as they head into turn 4, and Max Amalan going to go up the inside of Jay, who wheel drags with the Red Bull and is trying to hang on desperately to this final position here. Drivers are not happy, and he's going to hold it round the outside of Max, who just shuts the door on them. And Julian Peters picks up a time penalty as well to boot, and that's 6 seconds now against his final race time, so he's going to end up behind all these guys anyways on the power. Now what is Sandro going to do? He goes to the outside. Julian Peters defends aggressively. These two putting on a spectacular show. If only this was the race for the leader. Sandro parks the bus on the apex, and now Julian Peters going side by side with Sandro, tries to look for the switchback in the high-speed section here, and now heading through turn, I think that was 12 or 13, and making his way now down to the final corner once again. Vera Assis and Enes Mohammed were going wheel to wheel briefing. Look at this DRS games. This is unbelievable. This is borderline brake checking for the cars behind. No wonder they were causing crashes and chaos in the background. The stewards are surely going to look at this after the race. Stay tuned in the Discord server for any post-race decisions. But now off they fly. Julian Peters fakes to the inside. He goes to the outside of Sandro. Sandro manages to brake later. Julian Peters trying to hold it around the outside. Can he do anything against the medium-tired Haas car in front of him, fighting for P4? And of course, if there weren't any track limit penalties on this Red Bull, then this would be the most exciting battle we've seen in forever. But Julian Peters will drop back behind to P7 or P8. Bear in mind, and Sandro's practically shoving him out of the corner. And he's now going to go up the inside like he did to Max Amelain. They leave the space though. This is on the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. They leave each other the space. Sandro will not dive to the inside. It's way too late. And he rubs wheels with Julian Peters, who doesn't leave him the space. Now Max Amelain is trying to get involved. And the Red Bull's now got 2-1. Max Amelain is let through. And Sandro drops out of P6. But now round the outside of 1. Can he make it round the outside of 2? He can't. He has to collect the oversteer. And he gets shoved off track by Julian. He's trying anything, I think, now to protect this team. He actually gives Sandro a time penalty. Sandro is given a time penalty, and now they're making a lot of contact here, and now this is angry. This is angry stuff. Julian Peters is racing hard to try and help his teammate, and Sandro will surely get that time penalty taken off. I've got no idea about Jay and whether his penalty can be removed. I know Julian Peters probably picks up way too many, but now as we head onto the last lap of the race, a reminder that Enes Mohammed leads, but he will lose the race victory with a 6-second time penalty. Vera Assis will inherit the lead. And what is going on? What is going on? Julian Peters makes huge contact with Sandro. He drives well off into the runoff, and he's just absolutely ruining his race here and any potential chances. If any penalties could have been removed, it matters no more. He's down to P7. And finally, the battle boils over on the last lap. You have to hope there isn't any intentional manoeuvres into this corner. He's going to go for it. Julian Peters tries to intentionally take out the Hasses. That's a race ban if I've ever seen it. He's lost his mind. He's seen the red mist, and he has now left the session and is out of the points. Disgraceful driving there. He lost his head, and you're sure there was a lot of contact, but you can't be doing that at the end of a race. Jay now pulls up into P4. He is now leading this battle that was happening in the midfield. Sandro and Max are battling it out, going wheel to wheel. Sandro, of course, is going to try and take his time penalty off. So these guys are racing for position here. Jay won't be doing anything to help his teammate. He's just decided to try and clear the lot. And they're still playing DRS games. They've learned absolutely nothing from the rage of Julian Peters. Flexi enjoying it in the chat, but in the meantime, for the race victory, Vera Assis is going to pick this one up easily. They'll drive in formation up to the line, and for the first time in season 9, it'll be Vera Assis who wins the Grand Prix on home soil for Enes Mohammed, who with 6 seconds ends up finishing in P2. Sebastian Krog with a masterful strategy at the end manages to finish the podium positions, and it looks like Sandro, once he takes that track limit penalties off, which I'm sure will be removed as he got it while racing another car, Sandro will end up giving Haas a P4 and P5 finish. Max Amelain will end up in P6 here after being the only car left to score points for Red Bull, as Julian Peters got a time penalty for trying to take another car out. He's promoted to P4 on the road, but keep an eye on the server to see if penalties are removed and how things shape out. Kizio ends up P5, the Haas is P6 and P7 in game.